I have already mentioned the extremely formal and attached relationships we had as high school students with our old state teachers. Among the latter, there was one that was even famous in the entire institute for being a real nightmare for his students. The teacher of classic language, which my class had the misfortune of having for the entire duration of the 3 year period high school students. She was the greatly feared. She was not greatly feared and hated because she was fussy, tremendously devoted to her work and inflexible towards the laziness and listlessness of the last of the class. That woman, already in her 60s, had a grim appearance as if carved in stone, and didn't allow any glimpse of humanity. She must really have had mental or at least emotional problems. Every day she harbored such resentment that she made no secret of lack of steam, with a very low marks of the register, and with not even vague humiliation against the students who disliked her most. Not even I, who also gave myself to books, was never able to win her complete approval. I never excelled in her subjects, and not only out of personal incapacity. Her gaze terrified me. Her presumption of manipulating the minds of her students and leading them to the abyss of then rejoicing in it was something diabolical. Perhaps, however, myself was the one most able to resist this mental battle. The arch, complex, violent, and gruff figure of this woman was too much like my father's for she herself to not eventually be intrigued about my studied attitude of thoughtful, interested submission. Perhaps she appreciated my commitment in that languages, and while complaining that I couldn't excel as perhaps I could in the various inter-school competitions in which I participated at their will, she didn't spare me the grades at the end of the 3 years, which were more than acceptable for her well-known academic averages. I have often wondered what my perennial uncertainty about the future would have been like if I hadn't always said only had bad, bored, incompetent, or mediocre teachers along my educational path. How the teacher to Excel in elementary school never crossed my left path. I ended up regretting his figure as a man in love with his profession for many years in a row. I could have taught myself, of course, yet one of the favorite adages of our cruel teacher had always been do everything in life except teaching. Teaching sucks. You will almost always be forced to be in the company of ignorant goats, students who don't care about what you explain, and then it is not worth divulging subjects such as Latin, Italian, Greek. It would seem like a slavery from which it is impossible to escape. As she said it, she smiled wickedly, of course. Yet who knows that there was no wisdom in that warrior way of being alone, hated by everything and everyone, marginalized by her own colleagues. I, who having removed the ecclesiastical path, would undoubtedly have opted for a career as a teacher, so myself thus blocked that alternative outlet without even trying to put it in the budget. For a 19-year-old man, there are two types of maturity in Italy. The personal data is one derived from passing the third state exam. My 18 years were nothing extraordinary to me. I was called an adult, and there were two first imminent conquests: the possibility of getting a driver's license and that of participating in national political votes. Now, for those who have carefully read the first pages of these memoirs, it will be easy to imagine why I wouldn't even consider enrolling in a driving school. As for the right to vote, I would have gladly done without it as long as politics never set foot in a magical cave of my room or Ermine Tower, far from everything and everyone. I did everything I could to keep my birthday from my classmates, but I must have clearly understood my will, because they made it their duty to spend the last year and to introduce themselves to mine, counter altogether at least the female part with a gift package and greeting card signed by everyone. I had become of a thousand colors. I had no special friend, emotional and formal relationship with any of them, which justified such a blatant gesture. Plus, I seem to have already said that we hated each other. I invaded their sunshine and their freedom, and they despised the possibility of me snubbing them with my best of class selves. I in short I refused. I was rude. For days they talked about my uncivilized and humiliating gestures for my 5 years old companions. Even my direct rival in studies made it a point of honor, delighted by the possibility of denigrating me even in the eyes of my mother. She found her accused her of my rudeness, and my mother promptly took the side of my companions. It was a rather expensive watch. Do you think it's nice to refuse something so precious? I would give more value to mine if I were you. That was all that she had to say to me. I didn't even listen to her. Inside me a strange battle patient took over. At last I had shown my companions the contempt I had for them, for that youth that I would never have possessed. They were loved, pampered by their parents, surrounded by the friends and boyfriends who cared about some during school media, for what it would be worth in the very long life that awaited them. On the day of the state exam and the last pathetic act of my grey high school life was consummated, I appeared before the commission so dazed and pale that one of my teachers was worried and asked me if I had used any psychiatric drugs. You must have taken something, Stager. Don't look like you. You don't look like yourself. It was me, all right. I faced the abyss. School was over, and I didn't even know what exactly was waiting for me in the immediate future. I would never wake up with the thought of going to school, with the certainty that someone had shown me what to do, why to do it, and in how much time. I mean, I was shivering, was waiting cold, and telling myself I was incredibly fucked up. With some psychological help from the professor during my momentary raving in front of the latest tests, I managed to graduate with honors, unique in the world, unique, the only one in the whole institute. I didn't even want to go back to looking at the tables of results exhibited in the institute now in the middle of summer. My father went there and turned to give me the long-awaited news, not without underlining with a touch of contempt that being the first of the high school didn't save me from having the personality of a demented person. By now it was done. In front of me, I insect fighting with a giant first grade, painful challenge with destiny opened up. Thank you for listening to me. See you in the next video.